Before we get into the major fantasy news stories of the day, I would like to, in a non-joking, very serious manner, talk about the passing of the author behind the Berserk series. Kentaro Miura has passed away. The author behind a massively successful and influential manga series is no longer with us. I know what it's like to lose an author who was incredibly important to you and a creative mind who may have been influential in how you judge and view media. There's nothing I can say here aside from there's a slim silver lining in just the tributes I've seen from creative minds across the internet, people speaking out about how important this man was to him, how influential his work was, how brilliant, frankly, he was as a creator. And I know it's not much of one, but it's good to see someone's legacy is going to be forever. One of his assistants has come out and said they're unsure what the future of the series will be at this point, but I don't think that's important to focus on. Let's give everyone a good long breathing room to focus on this man and his legacy, because that's where I think the focus should be for the time being. Let's go ahead and have an abrupt tonal change and get into the fantasy news. The fantasy news must flow. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Greene, and today we have a decrepit dark valley of fantasy news to navigate, but don't worry, I'm grabbing the steering wheel and I'm gonna get you through it. First up, I am actually going to be taking the next few days off. You will not see me again until I'm covering fantasy news next week, and I'm just gonna be taking this time to finish the sequel novella to Breach of Peace, and I apologize for the lack of content, but I gotta get my passion project out of the way because it seems we're about to have a very exciting few months for all of nerddom, and I want to be completely focused on bringing you the highest quality content in that time, so I need to get at least this book done. But tonight at 9, the Demonic Council discusses whether or not undead should be allowed to run for office.
A zombie will hold office over my dead body.
Dead body, real mature Tom. First though, let's go ahead and catch up with the fantasy stories of the week. Wheel of Time fans continue to speculate about a possible end-of-the-year show release based on the fact that we are getting new editions of the Wheel of Time from Orbit Books in November. That is often a very solid indicator that within a month's time or so of that new edition release, we will be getting the show. We just got new Wheel of Time books, so it doesn't make sense to me doing this unless they are specifically show tie-ins. In that same vein though, we've had a Q&A from the showrunner Rafe Judkins, where he confirmed indeed Lan's color-shifting cloak will not be making an appearance for budgetary reasons, and well, that hurt my soul. I get it. I don't think I would have made that call, but I get it. Ouchie. If you would like to see his full responses though, of course, links in the description down below. And let's talk about the new cover reveal from Joe Abercrombie. The Wisdom of Crowds has been given its cover completing the Age of Madness trilogy. And I'm gonna be honest, I think this is my second favorite cover for the Age of Madness, but to be frank, Wisdom of Crowds is my favorite title for the entire Age of Madness trilogy. Little Hatred, that's very nice, great title from Joe Abercrombie. Trouble with Peace, tantalizing. The Wisdom of Crowds, terrifying. And it's just beautifully thematically ties into the whole thing. I expect nothing less. Let's go on to the next news. Ending literal years of speculation, we have it confirmed that the upcoming D&D movie will be for sure taking place within the Forgotten Realms, specifically within the city of Waterdeep. This does not confirm any characters involved. That's all speculation if you're seeing that online. Nothing else, as of recording this, has been confirmed, aside from the fact that yes, this movie will be taking place within Waterdeep in Forgotten Realms. And just a little extra cherry on top story here, it's also been confirmed by Wizards of the Coast that 2020 was the most financially successful year in Dungeons & Dragons history. The popularization of nerddom continues to rise. But that doesn't mean we're not still a little bit incestuous here over in fantasy, and don't worry, I'm going to clarify. Henry Cavill is apparently being eyed for the role of Highlander in a reboot to the franchise. Obviously, Henry Cavill is already well known within fantasy, playing both Superman and Geralt of Rivia, aka The Witcher, as well as you could argue Sherlock Holmes. He's just a popular big guy. We know who he is, and now it seems he might also be taking on the role of Highlander. This man makes money. But in a franchise I have never talked about until today news, we are getting a Netflix animated adaptation for Trese, a Filipino comic that has been quite popular overseas, and Netflix hopes to propel it into further success with this anime, and I was hooked by the trailer. Urban fantasy for sure, similarly in a vein to the Dresden Files, but what seems to be a much grittier tone. I will be watching this and possibly keep your eye out for a review on the channel if you'd like to know my thoughts. I generally know about absolutely nothing about Filipino folklore, so I hope this show sparks a lot of people's interest like myself to do some research, because it certainly presented itself in a tantalizing fashion. Distraction! Okay, so here's the issue. Right now, more fantasy books than ever are being released. I know what you're thinking, Daniel, how's that possibly an issue? Well, it's a wonderful, beautiful thing, and I think it's the greatest thing that ever happened to mankind, but that also means your fantasy book that you've been working on is gonna have more competition than ever. So how can you overcome this? Well, I have an answer for you here today. Campfire is going to give you a leg up on the competition because it's gonna allow you to take all those chaotic thoughts that are just fueled by caffeine throughout your workday and you can't keep straight into one place that you can just use whenever you need to. Because guess what? Campfire has maps, timelines, character organizers. You can build languages, everything that you need to tell your story and keep the millions of ideas you'll have to have right here. And if you get to do that, guess how much more popular your book's gonna be? That's impossible to know through math, but I can tell you it's gonna make getting it out a little bit easier, and that's wonderful. But Daniel, this is gonna cost me hundreds of dollars. It's a powerful software tool. How can I possibly afford it? Well, first of all, if you buy the whole thing all at once, it's not hundreds of dollars. But on top of that, you get to choose your own price because you just get to look at the features you wanna use, like, oh, I wanna do maps, I wanna do character arts, I wanna buy that. And then you can do a one-time purchase or a subscription, whichever you prefer. Campfire is the best writing tool on the planet. So if you're interested in checking this out, please use the link in the description because that's how Campfire knows I sent you, and check out Campfire today.
Vote! Vote, vote, vote!
In the r/fantasy best novels of fantasy poll that is closing today. If you're watching this, now is your last chance to influence r/fantasy's top picks for the fantasy sci-fi genres. Go ahead and follow the links down below and find out who I voted for in the comment section as well. All right, we're gonna shift gears for a moment and talk about superheroes. We had some promotional images leak of the upcoming Batman movie starring Robert Pattinson, and they look pretty interesting. It's a different vibe than I personally think we've gotten before for a live-action Batman, and my faith continues to rise in this movie, especially with the Zodiac-inspired look we're seeing for the Riddler. Yes, in additional leaked images, we got to see our first glimpses of the Riddler, and they are obviously, clearly, admittedly, going for a Zodiac influence inspiration, and I kind of dig it. The Zodiac is like the closest thing we've ever gotten to a real-life Riddler, with him having ciphers out there that are still unsolved if they're solvable, and I think that's kind of cool. I know I went on a rant recently about how it's not great to like glorify serial killers, but I find this to be different because they're not saying he is Zodiac, it's something inspired by, not something that's like genuinely just buying into the myth that these serial... Okay, it's a whole other thing. But yes, this looks pretty cool, and I hope it turns out well. And in yes! Oh, God! Please, more news. We are getting another entry in the cult classic Time Splitters franchise. For those of you who had the pleasure of playing the Time Splitters game when you were younger, you know exactly why I am immediately excited. Time traveling, absurd, just fighting vampires, zombies, mutants, all kinds of stuff. Yes, please. I got to play as a school of fish with a whale and shoot people. I want that in my life again. Seriously, it was like basically one of my favorite games as a kid. I'm really pumped to see Time Splitters return.
Get back in your hole. Get back in there.
And in something that's gonna seem a bit odd for me to be covering at first, but then you'll understand why, Dave Bautista has actually said part of the reason he does not want to continue the Drax character is he's getting older, and the shirtless scenes that need to look so great, it's, you know, not becoming something he can maintain easily. I get it, and I sympathize with the guy. I think he has every right to leave, and yeah, I don't want to see this character played out to the point where it's painful, so I support his decisions entirely. And also, Dave Bautista, did you know that Brandon Sanderson wants you to play Dalinar in the Stormlight Archive? He said that. That's the thing, that Brandon Sanderson said that. And I want you to do this. I think you would be an absolutely awesome Dalinar Kholin after seeing your more serious roles. So could you do that? Could you do that? please. Did I cover this entire story just in hopes to slightly increase the chances of this happening? Absolutely, yes. And just concluding the superhero news for the day, we also had a trailer drop for Marvel's Eternals. Cool. Next news. Amber Mid-Thunder has been cast as the lead in an upcoming Predator movie, and I'm absolutely fine with this casting. What I'm not fine with is this movie existing. Let the Predator franchise go. It was never that great. I hate to break it to you, the first Predator movie is pretty damn good, but after that, they were just not awesome, and it's been milking one successful movie with a good, great creature design for decades. Come up with something else. Come up with something else. Why are you so angry? Well, because the next piece of news too. This is why. Timothée Chalamet to play Willy Wonka in new origin tale, titled Wonka. Artistic integrity is dead. Here's the deal, Hollywood. This is my actual checkbook. I will agree to give you 50% of all the money I make on the book I'm about to work on if you agree that before these upcoming movies, you have to put a disclaimer that no actual artistic merit was put into either film. Let me know what you decide in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here. Can we have, just adapt first law? Do that before we make another Predator. Peace. And of course, I'd like to report a special shout out